Hey, what's up guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I'm going to be underpinning a video that I did yesterday, and I was kind of talking about how, if we get back to base core values, okay, and principles and understandings, okay, and things that we stand on are things that are real, okay, and that we take with us when we leave here, okay, and what makes us a whole individual. So I was just basically talking about how, when you leave this earth, you're only gonna leave with you, okay, and so therefore you need to be good with you and not anything external, not needing anything external necessarily for your happiness. And I think that's just one of the biggest tests that we are put here for, okay guys? So I was just talking about how different ways that we find fulfillment, without necessarily needing things or people or situations outside of ourselves to be different. All we can control is ourselves, okay, for the most part, and we can't even completely control our situation and circumstances. We're already always being affected by something outside of ourselves. But the point is to try to be as grounded and as base as possible when it comes to determining what is going to make you happy and fulfilled, okay, and what you're here for. All right guys, so basically guys, now I was talking about how a lot of our emotional issues that we deal with more prevalently in today's time could be a issue that is derived from people not getting enough emotional, spiritual, and mental care and paying enough attention to that with their children, okay, and people are taking things, material, tangible things, and trying to use that as a replacement, okay, for developing their children emotionally, spiritually, and physically, okay. So I was just pretty much talking about that, guys, and how, after a while you get so many things, that it just doesn't, it may be a Band-Aid, but a Band-Aid doesn't heal a cut, right? A Band-Aid is something you put on top of a cut, but a cut has to heal itself. So you have to be healthy enough and have a healthy enough immune system for that cut to eventually heal, okay? The Band-Aid is just something you put over top of it to keep dirt and bacteria from getting in it while the wound's still open, right? But it doesn't heal your wound. Makes sense? So it's the same thing with these Band-Aids in society. We are so spoiled, as I said yesterday, where we can have access to so many things, but these things only last, the high, the emotional feeling that we're looking for, it only lasts for about 10-15 seconds, figuratively speaking, you know what I mean? So the reason that we are unfulfilled and we're on to the next thing so easily, cancel culture as they call it, you know what I mean, is because we're chasing that next high. So it's just like if someone smoked crack, they say if you smoke crack for the first time, it's the craziest, most euphoric experience that you could ever have. But they say then you're chasing that high. After that, from that point on, you never find that level and quality of high again, okay? But you're steady chasing it. It's a void, okay? And so it's the same thing when it comes to us and developing as children, being a child and developing into healthy adults, okay guys, going within and really finding peace and tranquility within ourselves, okay, and more so valuing things like relationships. I want a best friend more than I should I want a pair of new shoes, okay? Or I want to have a good relationship with my children more than I want a mansion in California. You know what I mean? What am I valuing? You know what I mean? Now, if you can have both, great. You see what I'm saying? But the idea is to make sure that we have our priorities in order, okay, to be healthier. So if we start teaching, get back to teaching our families, our children, just everyone, just our communities, that this is what's valuable, okay? Love, okay? Unity, respect, honesty, integrity, okay? All these things, being good with yourself, because when you leave here, right, you ain't gonna take nothing else with you, but you're not gonna even take your body with you. You see what I mean? So, not your physical one, you know what I mean? So, there you go, you know what I mean? So, what's really important to leave here with, okay? So, what if you had everything in the world, but you compromise your soul, so to speak, or your spirit, okay? As they say, as scripture says, what is it for a man to profit the world and lose his soul, or gain the world and lose his soul, right? So that's just something that I want to talk about as far now. To get into this, guys, now this is the thing. So that was the base of what I was talking about, but this is how it piggybacks. If we're this is how it piggybacks off of the video that I did yesterday. So now, if we're teaching our kids, if we bringing this to the table, right, and then we're teaching our kids and people in general, and bringing these things to the forefront to think about it. Okay, another thing is we have to teach people how to swim and the technique to use, based on the waves, the way that the waves are flowing now, okay? So, for example, guys, if I'm in the water swimming, okay, I'm out there by myself swimming, but I got two people on the sand, okay, who's not in that water with me, trying to coach me while I'm swimming, right? Let's just say they haven't got in the water and haven't swam for 20, 30, 40 years. And let's just say that climate change has come about and that the waves are different now, okay? But they're coaching me from a space and a mind frame and a technique, okay, teaching me a technique to be able to swim through the waves that they swam in, but they haven't got in the water in years, okay? And the waves are different now, and perhaps we need a different technique, okay? So it's not even to blame the people on the sand who may be trying to coach. It's just it's not to blame them thinking that it's necessarily a malice attempt, to try to teach you the wrong thing so you can drown or fail, right? It's just a misunderstanding that the waves and the water is different now. So you can't teach me that old technique because it's not going to work in these waters, okay? So what has to happen, what we have to do is what? You can't necessarily listen to the people on the sand, trying to tell you how to swim in water that they have no experience on swimming in. You know what I mean? So, and even though they may, for example, they could be 40, 50 years older than you, but they haven't been in the water in 30 years, okay? So if you haven't swum in 30 years, then you just don't, you might have been a hell of a swimmer 30 years ago under a certain circumstance in certain waters with the waves moving a certain way, okay? But if I threw you out in the water now and you try to use your technique on these waves and these waters, okay, and you've been out the water for a long time, okay, then you may very well drown under those circumstances, okay? So what has to happen is, like anything else, the person in the water is in the water. So if that person is in the water and they're trying to, now they have to try to figure out the technique. They have to try to figure out a technique. You're in these rough waves, and now you realize that you can't necessarily listen to what the people on the sand is saying because they just may not really know how to move and swim through these waves. Okay, so you have to figure it out. Okay, while you're in that rough water, you got to figure it out, and you got to make it back to the shore, and then you have to start teaching other people. The people on the sand who were trying to tell you how to swim, you have to teach them now, you have to teach them that the waters are different. Get them to understand that these are different waters. I'm in this water. You weren't in the water. I'm in this water. So I'm trying to figure this out for all of us. Okay? So, and then if you figure it out and you make it back to those shores, you not only teach them, but then you teach everybody else underneath them, and that's on the water too, so people can know how to swim in that climate, okay, and under these circumstances in this water. And then the water change, and then one day I will hope that whoever I taught that may have been younger, okay, once I teach them how to move in the conditions that they are in now, okay, then I'm going to understand that I have to keep up now. They are learning, so I have to keep learning with them. I can't shut down, right? I can't get stuck. So that's what happened with a lot of people who may be considered older today, is some people may have stopped learning 40 years ago, okay? But they're still, so that wisdom, that information, that knowledge that they have acquired may very well still be relevant. Some things are timeless. Some wisdom is timeless, but then some things are subjective or based on a time frame. You see what I'm saying? Some things will stand the test of time as far as the knowledge and the wisdom and the application of it, but some things doesn't. So somebody can't teach you about finances and how it worked 40 years ago and still trying to give you that same blueprint, right? And the whole financial institution is say different today. You see what I mean? So, but imagine somebody trying to teach you about finances, and they're teaching you from a playbook from 40 years ago that worked maybe 40 years ago. You see what I'm saying? But because they stopped learning about the evolution of finances, so they stopped learning. That's the end of their curriculum, and so they're teaching you. You know what I mean? But you're in a different time, in a different classroom, in a different setting. Okay, this isn't calculus 1, it's calculus 4 now, something like that, but someone's still teaching you calculus 1, if that makes sense. So yeah, guys, I mean, so that's basically what it boils down to, guys. So, that's just another thing, just understanding, just to reiterate the main points of this video. So like that first one yesterday is just, establishing new values and morals and codes of conduct. And it's easier to say that and say that we stand by things, but then I'm talking about really living it out and showing it, and you'll be able to see it in people. You'll be able to see people healthier, happier, not necessarily needing as much and just being happy as opposed to like nowadays and in the recent past, guys, you can kind of look at people and the more that they have, but you can still kind of see an energy about them that doesn't seem happy. And people still have, people have enough in this country. Our poor people live halfway decent lives in comparison to regular people in a lot of other places. So we have plenty, guys. We have plenty over here, and people are still unhappy. So that's showing that something is wrong. Okay, so we have to evaluate that. So the best way, and I think the biggest thing for most of us, is just want our children to be happy. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a success in the aspect of how some people may dictate. It all depends on what you're valuing and what you consider to be success. Okay. So me personally, I would just want my children to genuinely be happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like following their heart and genuinely being happy. I wouldn't want my son to be a billionaire, a millionaire, the most successful person on the face of the earth if he was just going to be miserable with that money. And then when I went and talked to him, I could see it in his eyes. No matter how famous or how rich he is or something, he just seemed to be unhappy. I would take him being a guy who works at a regular 9-to-5, making a little bit of money, but if he love his job, if he got a situation, I can look at him and I can tell that he's really happy and he's good and he's fine, then I'd rather him do that. You know what I mean? So that's that's just basically what that boils down to. And then, like I said, and then now just remembering that we have to keep learning in order to teach, our youth and to keep going. We have to keep up with curriculum as a teacher, so we have to keep up and constantly learn. And then that's what keeps you around. That's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you young. I don't plan on stopping. I don't plan on getting 80 years old and saying, oh, you know what, man? I'm 80, man. Whatever that's going on and that's popular and it's pop culture right now, it doesn't matter to me because I'm 80. I just supposed to shut down. You see what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm gonna keep learning. If it's some type of new device and things like that, which I'm sure it is, I'm not gonna say, well, I didn't grow up using this, or I didn't know, so I'm gonna just be scared of it, or I'm not gonna try to learn it. No, I'm gonna keep up with the times. You know what I mean? So, you know, and so with the times, things change. And so philosophies change, understandings change, ways of doing things change, people change, you know, everything changes, guys. So we have to understand that, okay? And then even, but some things, like I said, it's about respecting each other, because some things that stand the test of time, okay? So there is wisdom that even an older person who could be 130, you know, can, and they just could have been for the past 80 years just sitting in the room and never got outside and can't tell you anything about the world in the past 50 years. But there is wisdom that person acquired, that have acquired in their life at some point, that it doesn't matter whether you live in the year 3000 or year 1901, it's going to be relevant, right? So that's for that stuff, and that's when that wisdom is good. But at the same time, then you got to get out your ego. And if it's something that you don't know about, that you are left behind about, you can't, just because you're older, okay, and you might feel like a position of authority because somebody may be your child, anything younger than you, just for any reason that you know. And then some people just have egos to where they, no matter what, they can know they're ignorant on something, but they just have to be the dominant force, or the, you know, feel like they're in control, even if it's something they know nothing about. You know what I mean? So we have to accept, accept the ignorance, understand it, and learn as much as we can, so we can, you know, have a valid point or valid things to teach people. You know what I mean? And then therefore, you know, it's less criticism that can be expressed, because we're keeping up with things, we're learning, we're teaching as we go. And so therefore, it's okay for us to be 40, 50 years older than somebody if we're keeping up with time, we're getting wiser and smarter. But if we shut down, I can't expect somebody 20 years younger than me, 20 years from now, to just listen to everything that I'm saying to do, or following everything that I'm doing, if I'm still living in year 2000. You know what I'm saying? 2020. You know, and it's not because that child is trying to disrespect me. It's because that child may understand that I'm living in this time, in this world, while that person may have good intentions. You know what I mean? They're not equipped, you know, or knowledgeable about the times that we're living in order to advise me in this way, if that makes sense. And so, like, for people, like I said, with me and anybody else, so we're in different climates. We're the ones that, some of us are the ones right now in that time where, you know, a lot of people are in limbo as far as exactly what to do. Older people just may not understand or know or be engaged in how the world has changed already and how it is changing, you know, and things like that. So, and then you got people who's younger who just are too young, and they're looking for that, they need guidance. So you have two generations needing guidance. Then you got the middle generation that needs guidance, you know, because they learned from the older generation who might think didn't teach them certain things, who didn't know certain things themselves. How can you teach what you don't know? And then if you're too young, then you're dependent on people to teach you a certain way. And so now you have in the middle so for example, I consider myself to be one of those people in the middle who's swimming, who's figuring the water out while they're in it. You see what I'm saying? And figuring the waves out to make it back to shore, so I can help you and you and you and you and you. And, you know, with the understanding that even this is going to change. So even you over here, the young one, by the time you grow up, those waves going to change again. And you may have to get out there in that water and figure those waves out and then bring it back and teach other people. Okay? You know, how to figure out waves and adapt. You know, not how to do it this way per se, because the waves may change. That technique may not work anymore. Okay? It's about knowing how to figure out different techniques. You know what I mean? Under whatever the circumstances are. All right, guys. Hopefully this was a helpful video. Peace.